in South Africa, and then grew up in Australia, and now I live in Mission. People often ask me, Morgan, what's it like living in Mission? I say, well, it's probably a lot like where you live. If where you live is rehab. Let me paint a picture of Mission for you. Imagine a stray cat comes up the driveway and you're like, go! And it's just like, meow. And you're like, okay. And you let it in, it wins you over, you fall in love. It's not like that at all. It's more like you're on death row and the warden comes and says, hey, we made a mistake, you're getting out. And you're like, really? He's like, nope. And he walks away laughing. I remember in high school, seeing hair starting to grow in strange places, places it shouldn't, places that hadn't grown before. My friends all pointing it out and laughing at me. Eventually I was just like, Mum, you got to shave off the mustache. It's gross. My friend went on a date the other day and he come back and said, how did it go? And he said, not bad. He said, she was a bit of a prawn. I said, prawn? He's like, keep the body and throw away the head. He wasn't a fan of the crustaceans, If you ever find yourself in the Australian outback, they say you should never drink at a watering hole more than twice, because if there's crocodiles around, they'll study you, and if you go back, they'll attack you. It's weird, because I found out in Canada, cougars can do the same thing. That's why when I'm in Mission, I never drink at the same pub twice. Remember that song, Eye of the Tiger? Oh man, that was my jam back in the day. I love that song. I always wondered though, did they try any other versions before they arrived at that one? Like you turn on the radio, you just hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Balls of the Badger. Balls of the Badger. We're running to that every day. Had a friend in high school, he was boxing champion. He was also captain of the football team. He was a good-looking guy. Everywhere he went, people were like, man, that guy is going somewhere. Turns out somewhere was jail. I used to be a correctional officer in a maximum security prison. It was always weird when you're putting them away at night and like a murderer or something look at you and be like, good night, officer. You're like, what are you supposed to say to that? Like, aw, sweet dreams, Bubba. I'll come tuck you in later. You think it's weird bumping into an ex at a party? Try bumping into an ex-inmate. You're like, so, how's freedom treating you? A weird thing they have in prison is something called intermittent sentencing. It's where you serve out your sentence on the weekends, so you go to jail on the weekend, and then Monday to Friday, you go to your job. It made me think of that song. Do you remember? Everybody's working for the weekend, except for Tim, because he's going to jail. And everybody wants a new romance. Not where you're going, you don't. Sorry, mate. Yeah. I have ADHD. As a kid, I couldn't sit still. And my teacher once, this is the 90s, she tied me to my desk with a skipping rope. And when my parents found out, they were like, hey, how's about you lending us that rope? And holding out on us. My wife comes from a long line of settlers. Her distant family settled from Spain to El Salvador, and then they settled from El Salvador to Canada. And then she ran out of options and had to settle for me. But yeah, marriage is hard. I've been married people here, You gotta be really careful who you take marriage advice from, particularly in the beginning. I remember someone saying to me, do you remember that saying, Morgan, when you get to the end of your rope? And I went, oh yeah, that's a good one. You make a knot and hang on, right? He said, no, you make a noose and you hang yourself. I was like, okay, I'm a good talk, Dad. Getting married in 5 minutes, I was reading a fairy tale to my friend's daughter the other night, and I don't know if you remember The Princess and the Frog. And at the end, she said, Mr. Morgan, did you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your princess? I said, no, honey, I didn't, but I sure did throw away a lot of prawns. That's me, thanks.